Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready? Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Hope you're having a great last few days coming up on the 4th of July. It's really nice here in Maine today. It's like in the low 80s and not a cloud in the sky, sunny as hell. Really nice. And still, the streets are bare. And so were the stores. In fact, the restaurants, over the weekend were really just your average day, not really a weekend. So, it wasn't really that busy. And, usually around this time, just before the 4th, you start to see a lot of campers coming down from Canada, keep people coming down and they camp off on the beach here in Old Orchard. Ain't seen much of that at all, okay? So, they're not coming, and I think, when they said they were going to boycott the states, they meant it. So, yeah, so like I said, this summer, it's going to be really bad for a lot of the tourist industry in Maine, and perhaps even in your states. But anyway, I got a couple of videos here. This first one from Mike Marsalis. And he's going to be talking about a number of different things on there. So let's go to that video here, and we'll discuss it on the other side.
Whoa, what I just showed you right there was from Wichita, Kansas, an area represented by a MAGA Republican Congress member too afraid to hold town halls. Americans are pissed at the Trump regime and the Trump sycophants in the House and the Senate who are trying to push forward the disastrous murder bill that they refer to as a budget bill. Congress member Frost, Democrat, was there leading this town hall in a ruby red Wichita, Kansas district. He goes, "Working people across the nation are pissed off about this rigged economy and they're showing up. Wichita's congressman refuses to host a town hall, so we pulled up instead. Democrats going into ruby red areas and speaking with the people about the rigged economy that MAGA Republicans are trying to give all these billionaires and decamillionaires all of the benefits." And I'll tell you what people are super pissed about. Here's what Donald Trump was posting throughout the evening and into the morning. Israeli court postpones Netanyahu's corruption trial after Donald Trump calls for Netanyahu's case to be dismissed. So this is what Donald Trump is focused on right now. While Americans can't afford housing, while Americans are psychologically tortured because we live paycheck to paycheck, as a disastrous murder bill is working its way through the Senate that's about to take 15 to 16 million of us off of our health care plans. We're going to go back to the time before Obamacare, and other essential services are going to be stripped away as our GDP is contracting. Oh, we do see Jeff Bezos and the millionaires and billionaires out there in Venice doing their foam parties and partying and living the high life. But I guess we have to take from working class and low income Americans so that what? So that Jeff Bezos and billionaires and decamillionaires can buy extra jets and yachts? That's what we mean when we say this economy is rigged and it's screwed up, and Donald Trump's out there posting about Benjamin Netanyahu's Israeli corruption trial in Israel. where Netanyahu's the prime minister. They're prosecuting him for crimes. Okay, that's their view of it in Israel. So Donald Trump extorts Israel and says, we will not give you weapons from the United States of America if you continue to prosecute Netanyahu as a matter of life and death, as a matter of war powers. You need to stop charging Netanyahu. And the court delayed the case. So that's what Donald Trump is focused on right now. Look, Elon Musk has been trashing Donald Trump again over the weekend. By the way, this weekend I did another video on the Epstein files because we are not going to forget about that here on the Midas Touch Network, that Donald Trump wants to cover up, that his name is all over the Epstein files. And I gave data and facts and evidence. Go back and watch that video from Sunday if you haven't seen it yet. Elon Musk was posting yesterday about the disastrous budget bill. The latest Senate draft bill will destroy millions of jobs in America and cause immense strategic harm to our country. Utterly insane and destructive. It gives handouts to industries of the past while severely damaging industries of the future. Elon Musk then says, Who is this bill helping? At the same time, this bill raises the debt ceiling by $5 trillion, the biggest increase in history, putting America in the fast lane to debt slavery. Elon Musk goes on to talk about how he reposts from Michael Thomas, who says the U.S. will need 450 gigawatts of new electricity generation by 2030 to meet rising demand from data centers, reshoring, etc. And the Senate is about to vote on a bill that could wipe out 500 gigawatts of potential energy generation capacity. Musk says this would be incredibly destructive to America. And Musk also says polls show this bill is political suicide for the Republican Party and a massive strategic error. The the North American Building Trades Union, NAB2, they put out a statement about this disastrous bill, and they say the revised Senate draft released over the weekend is a massive insult to working men and women of North American building trades unions and all construction workers. This is not what they voted for. If enacted, this stands to be the biggest job-killing bill in the history of this country. Simply put, it is the equivalent of terminating more than 1,000 Keystone XL pipeline projects. In some cases, it worsens the already harmful trajectory of the House-passed language, threatening an estimated 1.75 million construction jobs and over 3 billion work hours, which translates to $148 billion in lost annual wages and benefits. These are staggering and unfathomable job loss numbers, and the bill throws yet another lifeline and competitive advantage to China in the race for global energy dominance. Just talking a little bit more about international affairs, one of the things that was reported this weekend is that Iran is likely able to restart uranium enrichment in a matter of months because the strikes were not as effective as Donald Trump claimed. Shocker. The Washington Post, they seem to be able to report better when Jeff Bezos is distracted by his wedding overseas. They've actually did good reporting this weekend. Intercepted call of Iranian officials downplays damage of U.S. attack. The officials were heard saying Trump's strike on Iran proved less devastating than expected. The administration calls the intelligence insignificant, although our intelligence community has heard the Iranians privately when the U.S., they didn't know the U.S. was eavesdropping, saying that the strikes were not as strong as expected. And we can see with new satellite images from Fordo, Fox reports, Maxar reports, activity near the bombed ventilation shafts. Maxar collected new high-resolution satellite imagery on June 29th that reveals ongoing activity at and near the ventilation shafts and holes caused by the last week airstrikes on the Fordo fuel enrichment complex in Iran. On today's imagery, an excavator and several personnel in Iran are positioned immediately next to the northern shaft of the ridge above the underground complex. The crane appears to be operating at the entrance of the shaft hole. Several additional vehicles are also seen below the ridge and are parked along the access path that was built to access the site. So who does this benefit? A symbolic performative strike that's not as successful as claimed by the United States using B-2s against Iran. Well, Donald Trump gets to distract from his horrible poll numbers and all of his domestic failures, and Trump can act tough as though he was involved in an 11-day or 12-day war. Netanyahu benefits because Donald Trump then calls for Netanyahu's criminal trial to be postponed in a matter of war powers. So Netanyahu's criminal case now gets postponed. Iran benefits as Donald Trump now has encouraged China to buy cheap oil from Iran. Iran keeps its uranium. It's able to build nuclear weapons soon. Iran makes more money from China. It's now further embraced in the international community because the United States says we're done and Iran can do what it wants to do now, is basically what Trump said. And ultimately, Russia and Putin, remember Putin said he wanted to mediate the dispute between Israel and Iran and the United States. Russia benefits massively because now Iran can keep supplying its Shahed drones, which are the main weapon used by Russia against Ukraine. Do you see how this all works? And if you don't think it all lines up the way I just told you, well, I've got a nice bill of some snake oil I want to sell you. Donald Trump then held a disastrous interview on Sunday with Maria Bartiromo, state regime propagandist from Fox. And the way Donald Trump tries to describe what we're doing in this disastrous budget bill as it relates to energy policy is a bunch of gibberish that literally makes no sense. And I'm not even saying it makes no sense in terms of policy. That's a given. He's not even speaking in complete sentences. He's just saying words. Coal, windmills, mountains. I don't like the way solar looks. Here, listen to what he says. Play this clip.
Opened up coal. We were closing all our coal mines all over the country, and yet we still have a lot of coal. We use the generating plants of coal because it's the strongest, and we're doing coal. So we have everything, every form. I don't want windmills destroying our place. I don't want, these solar things where they go for miles and they cover up a half a mountain that are ugly as hell. And by the way, the panels are all made, and the windmills, they're all made in China. Okay?
So now the MAGA Republicans in the House are basically saying that all Americans will die in a nuclear war if we don't pass Trump's disastrous bill because it will deprive us of getting the Iron Dome, or the Golden Dome, they're calling it, the Golden Dome, to protect the homeland. No one knows what the hell he means by a Golden Dome, but okay, Golden Domes, everybody. Meanwhile, the Grand Ayatollah of Iran has issued a fatwa, which is considered a legal ruling on a point of law in Islam, calling for the assassination of Trump and Netanyahu and other senior officials in Israel, referring to them as the enemies of God. But I thought you all told me that Iran was on its knees and surrendering and begging. They're doing fatwas right now. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is set to attend the opening of Alligator Alcatraz this week in Florida. Governor DeSantis of Florida is using a abandoned airport that's in the Everglades that's surrounded by swamp and alligator-filled swampland in the Everglades, where they're throwing migrants into concentration camps. It is an alligator infested concentration camp this is real. They're calling it Alligator, I'm not making this up, Alligator Alcatraz, where migrants by the thousands will be put into a concentration camp where if they try to get out, they will be eaten by alligators. That's what the United States government is working with Florida to do right now. Great work to all of the Cubans for Trump and Venezuelans for Trump and Haitians for Trump, although not as many Haitians for Trump as Cubans and Venezuelans in Florida. Great work, great work. You now have went from having temporary protected status of family members and living thriving lives under former President Biden. You now got a worse version of Castro and Maduro, who's throwing you on alligator Alcatraz. Whoa, good work. I think Ron Filipkowski, our editor-in-chief, makes a great point here, a sad point, but it's with deep regret that I report that Russia was able to seize one of the biggest lithium deposit sites, rare earth minerals, from Ukraine. Remember Donald Trump and the Trump regime made a whole big deal about doing a rare earth mineral deal with Ukraine in exchange for the United States providing Patriot missiles to Ukraine. Well, we ended up using about 20% of our missile stockpile in Israel to ultimately help Netanyahu apparently get off from his criminal prosecution. But when it comes to Zelensky, we did not provide Zelensky with the weapons that we were supposed to do in the deal. And as our editor-in-chief Ron Filipkowski says, we go through all this drama, machinations, posturing with Trump and Vance at the White House and Zelensky to get this big minerals deal done. Remember that? Then as soon as the ink is dry, weak dumbass Trump lets the Russians seize Ukraine's most valuable lithium deposits while withholding Patriot batteries and missiles. Great work, idiot Donald Trump. Should be noted as well, MAGA Republican Senator Thom Tillis stated that he will not be running for re-election in North Carolina after Donald Trump demanded that he be primaried, and likely Lara Trump will primary Thom Tillis in North Carolina because Thom Tillis voted against the disastrous budget bill. I'm going to do a whole video on Thom Tillis calling it quits. So watch every 90 minutes. Come back every 90 minutes on the Midas Touch YouTube. Subscribe, turn the notifications on. Let everybody, friends, family, anybody you know about the Midas Touch Network. We got to get the truth out, folks. But Thom Tillis, Republican senator from North Carolina, so you don't have to believe me, believe Thom Tillis. He goes, I can't look at like the 700,000 constituents in my state who I'm going to kill, who are going to die, who are going to lose their Medicaid if I vote for this. I can't vote for it. I can't kill my constituents. So I'm going to vote against it. Trump says, nope, we only want Republican senators who kill their constituents. And so Donald Trump wants Lara Trump, I think, to take that part. But we will see. And speaking of the Trumps, Melania Trump event is now being investigated after promising to donate proceeds to a charity that doesn't appear to exist, a report says. I'll do a whole other take on this Melania situation, but she said there was some Be Best Foundation where the money was going to go to. There's no such thing that exists according to this report. So yet another Trump charity thing that raises a lot of question marks, let's just say, and perhaps even worse. What a grifty, scammy, despicable family that is indeed. But that's where we're at right now, folks. We'll keep you posted every step of the way. It's good to see those people in Wichita. Keep it up. Show up at those events. This shouldn't be a red state, blue state, purple state, whatever. I mean, this should just be about the government functioning for the people, by the people, not by the bullies, for the billionaires. Tell me what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers. We appreciate you so much, Midas Mighty.
It's a good rebranding of the Big Beautiful Bill, because what that Big Beautiful Bill is going to do is get a lot of Americans killed. So to call it the murder bill would not be an inaccurate description, okay? It certainly is a better description than the Big Beautiful Bill because there's nothing beautiful about it. Okay, so I think we ought to just from now on call it the murder bill, because you're going to get a lot of Americans killed, which is nothing new. Trump did that in his first time as president. He got a lot of Americans killed by lying to their faces and telling them that COVID was just a fucking hoax, and if you drink bleach or something, they'll get rid of it. Okay, we all heard the fucking bullshit that he said back then, and it drove Democrats wild, okay? And MAGA was just as dumb back then as they still are today, because they were backing what he was saying and all that. So Trump is a murderer. Maybe his hand personally didn't do the killing, but his orders did. He's been waging war on this country every time he's been in the White House. he's at war with this country today because, you know, think about all the stuff that he's done in the last 6-7 months. Okay, think about all that. Just think about that. You know, review all the stuff. Okay, and if you can't remember it all, just go on Google, find a list of things that he's done so far. You're going to find that a lot of the stuff he's done has really nothing to do about helping this country or making America great. Okay, it's all about division. It's all about sacrificing. It's all about getting rid of what they can't stand. Okay, it's all about, you know, pulling us backward in a lot of ways, pulling us backward, bringing us back to days that we thought we left behind, but they were such good days for a certain segment of our country that they want to relive it. And that comes from not knowing your history, or even talking to people who lived those days. Okay, I mean, this is how you repeat history, is when people are given this fucking beautiful picture of the past, and they leave out all the bad shit that happened. Well, people think, oh, those days must have been great. Let's go back. Okay, how many people younger than me would even remember the days that, you know, because Trump was what? He's 79 years old. Okay, so you have to be 79 years old or older to understand the days he's talking about. All right. How many people in this country, you know, have, you know, voted with that in mind and voted for Trump? I mean, I think, you know, because they said more young people voted for Trump than didn't, which means a lot of, you know, there's people who did not live those years that Trump lived and thought they were great. Okay, but there's a lot of elderly people out there that remember exactly and know exactly what Trump is talking about. All right. So yes, we have a great disconnect in America between history and today, because we got a lot of people thinking that Trump was going to bring about this great prosperous time, and in 7 months he's actually made things worse. I mean, look, they said Joe Biden left off, things are terrible. If you're honest with yourself, would you compare last year to this year and say this year was better or worse than last year? Be honest. Because if Trump was trying to make things better, then it should be the reverse. This year should have been a much better year, right, than last year. The economy would be stronger. There wouldn't be so many people out of work. Trade with the other countries would continue. Okay? And there'd be very little that Trump would need to do in order to keep that going and to keep and have things get better. He was handed a good economy. All he had to do was ride on that. That's all he had to do. And he could have lied and said, oh, I was a great president and the economy was doing great. Fine. Okay, but why did you have to go in there and mess with it? Okay, you thought you could do better than Joe Biden. You thought that Joe Biden was killing this country. Well, the way things look now, Joe Biden was actually helping this country, and Donald J. Trump is the one killing this country. Okay, he's killing it. Never seen so many people across this country protesting in all my life. And it ain't all just Democrats either. There's a lot of Republicans out there joining hands with the Democrats and protesting their heads off because they felt betrayed, you know? So, look, I mean, there's so much to reflect on in these last 7 months to understand that, hey, he ain't delivered shit. He ain't delivered a goddamn thing. It's his administration to this point has been an administration of failure. That's what it's been. Okay? Oh, remember these 90 deals he was going to make or something like that? He ain't even done one yet. He hasn't done one. He keeps talking about, I've had conversations with China and Japan and England, and everybody comes back and says, what the hell's he talking about? He never talked to me. Okay? He lies. It's like he's living a different life in his mind. Okay? And he thinks that, you know, people are going to believe him. Well, maybe some will, because it's a cult party now. The Republican Party is not so much a political party as it is a cult, fanatical party. And so people in a cult will do and believe anything, you know. And that's sad, because these people are cutting their own throats and they don't even want to recognize that they've done that. All right? We Democrats, whether they're MAGA people like it or not, are out there defending them too. Okay, against Trump. We're trying to help everybody, because by helping everybody, okay, then the truth comes out that it's not Trump that's doing good. You know, it's the Democrats that are helping and trying to keep things good. Okay? So, like I said, Trump has a legacy of failure, and that's not going to change in this presidential period in his life any more than the last one. Okay? And every fucking endeavor that he ever done in his whole life has always ended up in a fucking failure and a disaster. So, people, I keep coming back to this thing about qualifications to be a president, and I keep saying, where are those qualifications? Okay? I keep challenging MAGA, whenever they pop their little heads up, to try to comment with me, I try to challenge them and say, look, what makes you think he was ever qualified to be president? Tell me. Convince me. Okay? Convince me that this man should have been president, okay? Because I don't see it. How they saw it, blinders, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, a cult mentality. But nothing that Trump has ever done has proven that, he's capable or anything like that. No. Everybody sees it. Everybody sees it, and when I say everybody, I mean the majority of the country. Okay, the majority. Yeah, there's still going to be slackers on the other side that are going to just say, no. Okay, sure, they'll deny it, okay? Well, they cling to the rail of the Titanic when it goes down. Okay, let them fucking do that. If they want to own it, okay? You guys want to go down in history with Trump as the worst administration in history? Be my guest. You can own that to your dying breath. But the rest of us are going to go down in history as those who opposed this administration on every level and tried like hell to save the country. Okay? And that story is going to be a hell of a lot more interesting to tell than the fucking story of the bad guys who were trying to destroy this country from within. Okay? Trump talks about the enemy from within. He's talking about himself. Okay? He's talking about himself. He is the enemy from within. All right, and he's following that practice as closely as he can to the way Adolf Hitler did things. Okay, I mean, you can almost take, action by action, things that mirrored him. Look, the alligator Alcatraz that he's opened up in Florida. Okay, he's got a place down there, and he's so happy that that's going to get open. Okay. And it's surrounded by alligators because it's sitting in the middle of, I guess, a fucking swamp. I mean, I used to live down in Florida, but not in that area where they're opening up that fucking thing. And I'm thinking, we already have an alligator Alcatraz down there. It's called Mar-a-Lago. All right? And a lot of shady things happened in that fucking Mar-a-Lago, including with Jeffrey Epstein, okay? That never really made the light of day. I mean, we people have said things. People that have witnessed stuff there have come forward and said things about that. But there never was any real big investigation into it because look who lives in that fucking house. Okay, so there's already been an alligator Alcatraz down there. But the fact that they made this fucking prison, which what happened? El Salvador's full. They can't take any more people there. I mean, is that what's going on? So we had to build one here in the States. Well, if you're going to put people in this, prison, if you will, and it's on American soil, doesn't it mean they are entitled to due process while they're there? It's on American soil. It was different when they were in El Salvador because they weren't on American soil, and the courts really couldn't touch them. But now that they're going to be put here on American soil in the state of Florida, okay, then that means these people have the right of due process, to have their cases heard, to be, challenged, to prove that, we belong here, okay? So, if I was the Democrats, I say, yeah, let's fucking, we can go at it big time now, okay? You can put all the alligators in that area you want, but it's not going to stop due process. I don't know. It's, we're living in very, very dangerous times here, and we're all walking on a very slippery slope here. On both sides. I'm not just talking about MAGA, but on both sides, because you got MAGA, which is out there trying to destroy any semblance of fairness and law, okay, and justice in this country, okay, and they got the head honcho, their dingbat there in the White House, paving the way. Then you got on the other side the Democrats, who are trying to find ways to oppose Trump, but it's like a image problem. They don't seem to want to look like they're being the bad guy here. So they feel like they're walking on a slippery slope trying to oppose Trump, and that's why a lot of people are not seeing a whole lot of things coming out of the Democrat side that shows that they're really fighting against Trump. I don't know when they're going to wake up and really take the fight, take up the cause. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing in state issues, state elections and stuff like that, there's a big move for to get rid of the Republican side and put Democrats in the place. So the public is really pissed with the way things are, and it's showing up at town halls and stuff like that, where the people are shouting down and criticizing Republicans when they're there. So as much as they try to hide from it, they can't. Okay, as much as the Republicans want to hide from it, they really can't. It's there. It's in their face everywhere they go. And I don't know about where you live, but here in Maine, a lot of commercials have been spent, a lot of money has been spent on political ads on our television, about Susan Collins and other members of our state legislature, pro-Republican ads, I should say. Very few Democrat ads, but all pro-Republican ads. A lot of money has been dumped into the state to keep Senator Collins as senator, okay, when a lot of people in Maine are not too happy with her right now, okay, and I think they know this, and that's why they're spending a lot of money here, okay, but I have never seen it this bad, way outside of a primary, a midterm rather, okay, never seen it this bad outside of a midterm, this far out. But there's Republicans sweating bullets right now, and I imagine in a lot of states there's probably the same thing going on. The Republicans are opening up their coffers and they're starting to spend big money here to try to hang on to what power they can. I think they realize, that the situation with them is not good. Some of them, probably even thinking about quitting or something, or resigning. But it's pretty bad. It's pretty fucking bad when you think about it. And like I said, you can't ignore that. MAGA can't ignore this. Okay, they can be spiteful. They can just be sour grapes about it and everything. Okay, but at the end of the day, that's not going to get them anywhere. It really ain't. You can be like that all you want. You can troll the internet all day and start gaslighting people and throwing your insults all day long. It's not going to get you anywhere, okay? It might make you feel good for the moment, but it's not going to help anything. You're still going to end up at the whim of Donald Trump's mood of the day, and you're going to end up, either being on good ground with him, or you're going to end up losing the ground from under you. I mean, it's just, hey, that's the chance you take when you ignore the obvious, okay? We weren't lying. The Democrats weren't lying last year about Trump, and we ain't lying about him now. And everything we've said about him has come to pass, okay? Everything we've said about him. The world leaders, they don't like him. You could sense it in the air. I mean, it's just, people just despise that man. The people in England, they don't want Trump over there. He's supposed to go to England here sometime soon, and they petitioned big time to keep Trump out of their country. They don't want him setting foot over there. Okay, when has that ever happened to an American president? That's got to be bad when you got people in other countries demanding that their leaders do not allow Trump in their country. The thing is he is a felon, a convicted felon, a criminal, and by that standard alone, there are laws in other countries that you can't be a criminal and come visit. They have that standard on people at tour. If you're a criminal, you're not welcome in this country. I don't know what what it is for England, but I can tell you that these people have every right not to let Trump in that country. And but how often do leaders ever listen to the will of the people? That's the thing. But it's funny that the people seem to be making better choices about things than the damn politicians are in all these countries. Okay, the people seem to understand things better, and so the politicians are deliberately ignoring the will of the people, or even ignoring the obvious. Okay, they have other interests in mind that supersede what the people want, and that's what's happening right here in America. This shit about cutting millions off of Medicaid and all that crap. Okay, that is unfathomable. I just can't imagine any president who would be willing to sacrifice Americans just to give extra money to the wealthy in this country who don't need it. Are they suffering? Can someone show me that these rich people are suffering, that they desperately need this fucking money, or they're going to lose everything? Can somebody show me a story? Can 60 Minutes go find me one of these billionaires who's suffering so fucking bad financially that they need to get help from the goddamn government so they can make ends meet? Can you please prove your fucking side? Because we certainly can prove how many poor people in this country need every fucking bit of help they can get. And instead of taking it away, they should be getting more. Okay? Because, hey, no one's ever been really that happy about whatever they were getting, like SNAP, Medicare, and all that stuff anyway. Instead, we should have been talking about how can we give more to the poor people to help them out, because they're getting barely enough as it is, but they need more because times are more expensive now. No one ever talks about that. No, it's always about take away, take away, take away, and give to the rich. Please, tell me who amongst the fucking wealthy is suffering so bad right now that they need to have trillions of fucking dollars added to their coffers. I don't think any person in MAGA could possibly answer that question. No one. And until they do, I'm not going to listen to them. Until they can come up with an example of what they mean by we ought to help the rich, okay, I'm not going to listen to them. I'm not going to believe them, okay? I'm sorry. But I'm too smart to follow your bullshit, okay? I'm sorry. Everybody laughs at that, thinking, oh, the poor have to help out the rich. No, this is a backward time, okay? And we never had a president who advocated so hard for the goddamn wealthy in this country that they would do that. All right? I mean, George Bush came close, Junior there. Okay, snuck that fucking bailout money there for the goddamn bankers. Okay, that was bad enough because it plunged the country into a deficit that was higher than hell. We never did pay that off, by the way. Okay, but here we're doing it again, and this time they're not hiding where it's going. Okay, it ain't a bunch of bankers. Well, maybe some of them are, but not all of them are bankers. It's just wealthy people who've been complaining for God knows when that the taxes are too high. They were bitching about the taxes being high 20 years ago. Okay, we cut their fucking taxes over and over, and every time it comes up, they're still screaming too high, too high, too high. Zero is too high for them. Okay? Do you see what I'm saying? It's a fucking, it's a trap. It's a goddamn trap. And we keep falling into it because we don't have politicians who have a spine to stand up against it. Let's go to a commercial break.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
How to use a pump to get bigger. Hi, I'm Clarissa from Our Doctor, and we're talking about pumps and the benefits of using male enlargement and enhancement vacuum pumps. The male enhancement pump is a very easy to use and effective medical grade device to help men achieve a fuller erection and reduce premature ejaculation. This digital and waterproof device can be issued without a doctor's prescription. How do you use one? It's quite easy. Simply insert your penis shaft into the pump tube, power it up, then choose your desired setting. You may feel a suction, which is a good thing. This is drawing blood into the penis vessels. This causes a swelling effect to give you temporary, more significant, and more complex erection results for up to 24 hours. Permanent results can be achieved with regular daily sessions just by using this pump. If you suffer from erectile dysfunction or are looking to increase your size, this pump is proven to work. Due to genetic or hormonal factors, men born with micropenis or a tiny penis should also consider this product. The reason why is because you have additional skin growth around your penis and it's buried. This condition is not uncommon. However, using a pump like this one or having an outpatient procedure done can resolve this issue. From the men who have used the pump, they'll say it's given them a quarter to a full inch in length after using it for about 5 to 10 minutes before their sexual encounter. Some men like to take either sildenafil or tadalafil in conjunction with this pump, so they can achieve even longer lasting results. If you have any questions about our products or services, you can check us out on our website or call us, and we have doctors and specialists that can answer any of your questions. Thanks for watching. Please like, follow, and subscribe, and post any questions you may have in the comments below. See you next time.
girl, but I am a few percent of your love. So I believe you when you said you had love.
I thought I'd just get head spins, not nicotine poisoning.
Oh my god. His vape taped. I wanted to be social. I didn't want the addiction that took over.
I thought it was just a bit of fun, but not being able to breathe because of lung damage is definitely not fun.
It's proven that vapes cause real harm. Every vape is a hit to your health. For more proof, search vaping harms.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, welcome back. All right, got another video here from the iHip girls, and they're going to be talking about a couple of things here. So let's go to that, and we'll come back and talk.
Trump's big, beautiful bill is a heaping pile of dog shit. Senators on the Senate floor are calling it a crime scene. It is the biggest transfer of wealth from the working class to the oligarch ruling class. It is immoral. It is egregious. It is a horrific bill. And Elon Musk just can't help himself. He has to chime in to this like he gives a crap about working class people. He says the latest Senate draft bill will destroy million jobs in America and cause immense strategic harm to our country. Utterly insane and destructive. It gives handouts to industries of the past while severely damaging industries of the future. That last part is the part that he cares about, that this bill doesn't curry enough favor for him personally. It is a horrific bill. Elon Musk pretends like he cares about the national deficit. That's why he created that, I care about this, because he wanted to go in and create this phony criminal department called DOJ so that he could shut down investigations and regulations into his companies. The American democracy is failing. And if this bill passes, the irony is red states suffer the most. And the senators from these red states are out championing the destruction of the working class people in their very states. And you have senators like Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts, who is fighting for all Americans, and other Democrats. This is horrific. They're going to have a big vote-a-rama today. So keep your eyes on this. It's not as sexy or as entertaining as a lot of the regular Trump fuckery, but this is at the core of who we are. Are we going to dick over poor people? Because that's what MAGA is. MAGA is an attack on poor people. It attacks the most vulnerable and the most marginalized unapologetically and with impunity. And their Christian followers, they don't call them out for it. They go along with it because this is a party of abject cruelty.
I completely agree with you. And some of the unspoken things that we don't hear about as much are what this bill would do to undermine the courts. Courts could no longer stop Donald Trump from defying orders. And that is by design, because consolidation of power is what he's looking for. And I just find it so rich that Elon Musk is, out there going on and on about the bill, because you're completely right. He doesn't give a shit about anything other than he will lose subsidies personally.
Yeah. And here is a protester that made their way to the Senate floor last night. And I thought the message was really good. Watch this clip.
The Sergeant of Arms will restore order. The Sergeant of Arms. The sergeant of arms will restore order in the galley. The sergeant of arms will restore order. The sergeant of arms will...
So what the protester is saying here is, how do you guys sleep at night? How can you do this? You are awful. And at the core of all of this is just the American public has been propagandized for years to champion for corporations. And I just want to point out something. Israel, their citizens get healthcare, they get higher education, and we subsidize that. Meanwhile, working class Americans don't get either. And then if they need assistance because the Congress will not raise the minimum wage because they're too busy giving tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires, then they're called lazy. And this party, this MAGA movement, is an attack on the poor at every single turn. The overturning of Roe v. Wade isn't an attack on Pumps' daughter, because Pumps could fly out of this hellscape MAGA state and take her daughter to a state where she could receive medical care. It is an attack on poor people, specifically Black and brown people. And when Republicans get untethered from Donald Trump, the truth starts to drip out. North Carolina Senator Tillis goes rogue yesterday, announces that he will not seek re-election, and here he is untethered on the Senate floor.
Inescapable that this bill in its current form will betray the very promise that Donald J. Trump made in the Oval Office or in the cabinet room when I was there with finance, where he said we can go after waste, fraud, and abuse on any programs. Now, those amateurs that are advising him, not Dr. Oz, I'm talking about White House healthcare experts, refuse to tell him that those instructions that were to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse all of a sudden eliminates a government program that's called the provider tax. We have morphed a legal construct that admittedly has been abused and should be eliminated into waste, fraud, and abuse. Money laundering. Read the code. Look at how long it's been.
I look at all of these senators and I think, and U.S. House of Representatives for that matter, they are more terrified of Donald Trump than they are willing to work for their constituents. And Tom Tillis has made a calculated decision. Trump's going to primary me. That's okay. These other elected officials need to understand that there will be elections again, and counting on the inactivity and ignorance of the electorate is going to bite them in the ass, that I believe, because it is going to hit them exactly where it hurts.
Yeah, but I hope so. But you see people like Ted Cruz that gets reelected and reelected and reelected because Middle America has been so propagandized to fight for corporate America. They feel like there is this worship of capitalism and the people who execute and benefit the most from capitalism. I hope you're right. But, I had faith that maybe the Supreme Court would step in and start to limit Donald Trump's power. They didn't. At the core of the MAGA movement, they have had a hard-on for Medicaid, for Social Security, for all of these things for decades. They have convinced their very religious, racist Christian base that people who are on these programs are lazy and undeserving of them. Even our own governor sent out a tweet this weekend that said about SNAP that it was a supplemental program and that he didn't want anybody getting candy or soda with their food stamps. And I wanted to tweet him back and say, yeah, my favorite part of the Bible is where Jesus said, no soda or candy for you, poor people, you lazy idiots, because that's the disdain that this party treats them from. I don't commend or applaud Tillis. All of these people have been a part of this demonization of other human beings that have been decades long. And people do this with impunity, and nobody stands up for the marginalized. Bernie Sanders, always does. He's beholden to no one. And there are a few others. But when it gets to American politics, it's all this jockeying and playing, and I'm going to get primaried, and AIPAC gives me money, so I can't be honest about Israel. Big oil gives me money, so I can't be honest about climate change. Big pharma gives me money, so I can't be honest about addiction. It's disgusting. And the system is untenable and unsustainable. Next up, we have Senator Murphy, who I believe from the jump has been telling people the truth about what they're seeing, the gaslighting nature of MAGA, the cruelty of MAGA. And here he is.
What they're doing behind closed doors when they have these secret meetings with each other, they are talking about how many people they're going to throw off of healthcare. Whereas in the public, it's like, no, it's just about Medicaid inefficiencies, cutting waste and abuse. But behind closed doors, they're literally handing paper to each other, in which they're talking about, yeah, we totally know that we're throwing millions of people out there.
So let's do it fast. Let's do it in the middle of the night, and let's do it with no hearings, no public data, no discussion of this, and let's not talk about it.
These three senators are blue state senators, and their constituents are not going to be as directly impacted from this heaping pile of dog shit of a bill. And they fight for everybody. They fight for human rights, and they fight for decency. And these MAGA politicians, these MAGA senators, these MAGA constituents are so full of this game and jockeying and dicking over other Americans, and then demonizing the poor, demonizing marginalized groups, being homophobes, being racist. I'm so sick of it. I know all of you all are so breathtakingly sick of it. It's just abhorrent what this country has evolved into.
Well, and you have elected officials like Mitch McConnell saying, oh, they'll get over it.
Right.
You have Mike Johnson, who is the Speaker of the House, at up to 35 to 40% of his constituents will lose care and benefits because of this bill. And he doesn't give a shit. And he stands up there and he lies and says there will not be cuts, at the same time telling everyone he's the biggest Jesus person on the planet. They are all duplicitous and bankrupt and cruel.
And I think that gets to a core component of what the MAGA does. They Christian signal. They accuse liberals of virtue signaling. But the real crime is this Christian signaling that Mike Johnson does, that all of the women in the MAGA movement, they wear a cross as they sit and gaslight and demonize and demoralize fellow citizens, lie to them, tell them they're lazy, and the reason they can't get ahead is because of these trans people or these immigrants. The reason you're never going to get ahead is because nobody in Congress fights for you to have a livable wage, and they constantly fight for the billionaire class to get more and more and more. And then you have all of these people in America that sit at home and watch Fox News and buy into this narrative that somehow people that aren't the same skin color as they are, the same gender, or maybe somewhat gender fluid, are somehow trying to destroy their lives. The problem is this: Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos reap all of the benefits of taxpayer paid money. The FAA, their private jets take off and land safely because our taxpayer money sees that it does. Amazon, all of those trucks that drive on all of those roads, our taxpayer money has made sure that Jeff Bezos' delivery trucks can deliver everybody's shit that they buy on Amazon. Yet he pays very little taxes. But who do they want to blame for this? They want to blame the people that work for Amazon that don't make enough money, who then have to get subsidized. And then Jeff Bezos won't even allow them to unionize. Same with a bunch of these corporations. And it's just abhorrent. And the Democrats have got to take an economic populist message all the way into the midterms, because if you look at the New York City mayoral race, Mamdani won districts that Trump won. And that shows you that there is a vacuum that Trump filled. He filled a vacuum of people that have been demonized and demoralized and dehumanized and told that they're not worthy of livable wages. Think about that. American politicians telling their fellow citizens, yeah, you may work 40 hours a week and then you might have a side hustle, but you're not worthy and you're not good enough to make enough money. But this billionaire is, but yeah, by golly, we're going to raise your taxes and we're going to make sure he doesn't. And then we're going to tell you this trickle down stuff. It's just complete depravity. But while all this is going on, while this massive, horrific, immoral bill is moving and advancing through the Senate, this is what Trump, who sounds like a second grader, this is what he says on Fox News.
That I helped China. So by reducing it. We still don't know. We don't have the clarity on what you're going to do with these expiration of these pauses. July 9th? No, I thought I just said it. I thought I just said it. You ready? You're going to send letters. I'm going to send letters. That's the end of the trade deal. I could send one to Japan. Dear Mr. Japan, here's the story. You're going to pay a 25%.
Okay. Dear Mr. Japan, had Joe Biden in an interview last year at this time said, Dear Mr. Japan, Jake Tapper, Fox News, they would all be losing their goddamn minds. You wouldn't be able to see straight. The fact that this man gets away with speaking like a second grader, acting like he has full-blown dementia, confusing Hannibal Lecter as a real person and the real issue of amnesty. It's just in asylums and insane asylums. It's just utterly insane. But I want to show you all in pumps. This is an AI image. And this to me is exactly the MAGA base. And to our listener, it's two people at a trailer park with MAGA hats on with a sign that says, help the billionaires.
That's exactly what they're doing. And I don't know if they're so ill-informed or don't care enough about themselves that MAGA's voters are the ones that will suffer the very most. And Donald Trump could give two shits.
And you know what's so crazy is they've been propagandized to tell you deserve this suffering. And they take it and they fight for Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, who wasn't even born in this country. They fight for those guys to pay zero in taxes. And you know what they think? They think they're smart for somehow not paying taxes. Yeah. All right, that's all we have for today. We'll see you all later.
You know, one of the things that, my father had told me years ago, okay, was that you're going to find that people who earn $7 an hour work way harder than any fucking asshole out there that works and earns $7,000 an hour, okay? And that person who works $7 an hour is worthy of at least as much respect as we give these other people who work for more, okay? And at that time, when you're young, you don't really understand the concept, because you never would imagine, you can't picture anybody working and getting, money like that. But as I got older and started to see how things are and how unfair things are, and I started to learn about what feeds this kind of bullshit, I'd say, yeah. People that work from hand to mouth, paycheck hand to mouth, okay, they have a hard time to just make ends meet. That's a problem rich people never face. You understand? If they do, it's only because they have a problem, which is they can't control their spending. They spend more than they earn, and so they end up, in debt, personal debt. And they expect people to bail them out, which is, what they do when, push politicians to, hey, cut our taxes or something like that. And I think that, when you got people that can do that continually, but the poor guy can't. He can't afford to buy a politician. Okay? They're lucky if they can get into a union, which is infuriating to Republicans, because they don't want working people to have a goddamn union, which in the middle class and low income earners is essential. I mean, I would recommend everybody being in a fucking union if you're working just, minimum wage or barely above it. There's no reason you shouldn't be in one. Okay, I know Republicans hate it, and they've spent a lot of time trying to break these things up, and they can justify it any way they want. But that's the only avenue people have for their rights, their job rights, okay? Because as they're working, they don't really have the time to put the legwork into trying to go to DC and, you know, push for legislation or whatever, so that way, or whatever, to go to the heads of the companies or what, you know what I'm saying? They're too busy working. They can't do all that other shit, okay? So they got to have somebody do it for them, and that's why you need to have a union, you know? But, you know, for a long time, these unions have been a thorn in the side of the wealthy and the corporations, and that is, you know, just, well, too bad. If you guys did your jobs fairly and treated your workers fairly, you know, maybe the unions wouldn't be around. Then you wouldn't have anything to bitch about. But no, you want to keep doing the same old bullshit, okay? As soon as you see a fucking union pop up, you're out there to tear it down, okay? That's why we got so fewer people in unions now than we ever have. But when we had Joe Biden, you know, who is a pro-union president, okay, people were happy, you know, hey, he's going to stand up for us. That's what people want to see from their president, is someone who's going to stand up for them, not for the rich. The rich have all the stand-up they got and will ever need. Believe me. They'll have all the fucking stand-up and support they need. But the president, he can't just represent, you know, 10% of the country. He's got to represent everybody, and fairly. Okay? I know that stinks to the high heavens to anyone that's in MAGA. But what the hell do you expect? And why are you so composed? You're sitting there sleeping while I'm talking here about this stuff? Friggin' Smokey. Jesus. God. Anyway. The fact is that, you know, we have a country here that's in desperate need of being propped up here, basically, because we're losing a lot of workforce here. This country cannot function without a workforce, and people are not going to work for peanuts when everything is priced to the gills. I mean, you can't do this. You can't expect miracles in that kind of a situation. It isn't going to happen. All right? And a lot of you people in MAGA are going through this as I speak. You're working your asses off, and you're getting very little for your pay. Okay? You people, I don't know why you're not out bitching, those of you that are not, okay? But you should be. You should be out there having your voices heard. You should be out there doing something instead of allowing yourself to be ignored. I mean, it's like someone's raping you and you're not screaming for help. You know? Stand up for yourself, for Christ's sake. Get your head out of your ass. You know, if you got a family to take care of, it's up to you to take the steps that you need to take in order to protect your family. Put the horse shit aside about, oh, MAGA and all this other crap, okay? That's like fucking Sunday night football crap is what that is, okay? You need to get serious. Life is about being serious. It's not about bullshit, okay? And these goddamn political cults like MAGA is just political bullshit. A means to an end, and it doesn't usually have a good end. All right? You need to take that, put it aside, okay? It's not for you. If you were rich, you'd have the time to be able to be part of something like that, but you're not rich, okay? So you've got no business being tied in with that. You need to be careful about where your loyalties are and what you find important. What is important to you? Okay? Is it important that the rich do better than you? Or is it important that you get what you deserve so that you can do better and so can your family? Okay? Isn't that the choice that you're faced with, or do you not see that? Because unfortunately, there's a lot of people in MAGA who don't, okay? Because I know what I'm talking about, because I talk to some of these people often enough to know that they're living in a different world. Okay? I don't know what their priorities are, but it sure as hell ain't on them or their families, okay? Which is why a lot of these folks lost their wives and their girlfriends, because they revealed themselves to what they are to these people, and they like, hey, Not you. No. I'm not going to go down that road with you. Goodbye. Can't blame people for splitting on these folks, okay? Because they're a snowball headed for hell. But if you haven't got it straight in your head what your priorities are, then you've got no business being involved in politics, because you are one of those people that's going to make the wrong choice, and it's going to affect everybody, just like what happened in the last election. A lot of people voted who should not have voted because they weren't in tune with what was going on in this country. Okay, they were listening too much horse crap from Fox and these other outlets out there, okay? That's what they were getting their information from. Those were their sources, and they're very bad sources, people, very bad. It's already been proven. Look, they paid, what, almost $800 million because they were lying about a goddamn voting machine company, okay? It ain't the first time they've been challenged in court either. And they even admitted, you know, we have a right to lie, or words to that effect. I mean, so people, you know, if you like Fox News, okay, and a lot of you do, then be consistent. When your kid tells a lie, it's okay. If your kid does something wrong and he lies to your face about it, you should be okay with that. Really. He's telling you what you want to hear, right? So hey, I'm gonna believe him. If he set the house on fire and he told you he didn't do it, it was some alien from another, okay, that's what you people have to be like. But you can't be double standard. You can't be smart enough not to believe a lie from your kid, but dumb enough to believe a lie from somebody that you idolize as a person that should lead the country. Okay? You know, that's the way I see it. You people, you turn off your bullshit filter whenever you feel like it. When you turn it off, you're being fed crap. You turn it back on for other people that you don't really give a shit about or even want to hear from, okay? You people, you can't go through life like that. That's a mistake. If you got standards and you don't like people that lie to your face, and you don't like people that get you involved in problems that you didn't ask for, then you need to stand up for yourself and let people know this ain't right. Now, some of you MAGA people did. Yeah, some of you people have come around, all right, and understood that Trump wasn't good. You made a mistake. I would respect you more if you admitted to me that you made a mistake, okay? I'd still be pissed that you voted for the man, but at least I would say, well, at least they knew enough to say, yeah, I fucked up, okay? I could have more respect for that person, former MAGA person, if they would just say that, okay? Nothing wrong. People have been wrong all the time. I've been wrong many times. You've been wrong many times. We all been wrong about something in life. Life is not always 100%, okay? But it's when we admit we've made a mistake and we learn from it that defines what kind of person we are, you know? And believe me, you can be wrong about something big, but learn from it and pass that knowledge down to, you know, future generations. Okay, that's the way to make amends, you know? But when you have a person like Trump, a guy who's never learned that lesson. He's 79 years old, and he's gone his whole life without learning a lot of life lessons, people. A lot of life lessons, and because and it's because largely that he's had a silver spoon up his ass. You know, when people are running to his cover every time he's tripped and fall. You know, but that's essentially, you know, what Trump is, and he's a guy you don't want to learn from, because he should be learning from you people out there who bust your ass to support your families. That Trump needs to learn life lessons from you. Some of you people, you're in your 30s, you know more about life than he ever will, okay? Believe that. Let me read this here. A Republican senator says babies born to undocumented immigrants in the U.S. should be deported. This coming from Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, who wants everyone to know he means business when it comes to helping Donald Trump reach his infernal mass deportation goals. And to that end, he's got one super scary demographic squarely in his sights: babies. There simply is no bottom for these morally debased goblins. Tom Tills slams his party's mega bill after Trump forces him into retirement. I think, they already talked a bit about that. Tillis committed the unforgivable sin of shoving the slightest semblance of a backbone and voting his conscience on behalf of his North Carolina constituents. For his act of, we'll call it bravery, he's paying a handsome political price: early retirement, just one day after voting against Trump's disastrous budget bill that will strip health care away from millions of Americans and add $3.3 trillion to the national debt in exchange for yet another tax cut for the mega wealthy. Tillis announced he will not seek re-election next year and avoid being primaried by whichever MAGA sycophant promises to kowtow the hardest to dear leader's agenda. Free to finally speak his mind, Tillis ripped Trump's budget bill and openly admitted the Republican Party is being held hostage by a wannabe dictator. Quote, "I look forward to having the pure freedom to call the balls and strikes as I see fit, and representing the great people of North Carolina to the best of my ability," unquote. But sure, not a cult, not an authoritarian bully, not a banana republic. Okay? And here's something that a lot of people really don't think about right now, but it's important. Trump's big dumb bill, the murder bill, auctions off our pristine Arctic wilderness for corporate pillaging. You've been hearing for weeks about the giant reconciliation bill that Republicans are working to push through Congress. Well, we won't beat around the bush. This is the worst environmental bill in history. It forces the government to sell off millions of acres of our public Arctic land for oil and gas development, allowing big corporations to run roughshod over sacred native lands, critical wildlife preserves, and pristine wilderness. They're selling off our children's birthright for pennies on the dollar so they can pay for tax cuts for the wealthy. Here's another part here. In today's episode of Who Could Have Possibly Seen This Coming, besides everyone, we bring you this entirely predictable and infuriating development. In the vast agricultural lands north of Los Angeles, stretching from Ventura County into the state's Central Valley, farmers, field supervisors, and immigrant farm workers told Reuters that Donald Trump's ICE raids have led to a majority of workers simply not showing up, leaving huge crops of fruits and vegetables to rot at peak harvest time. Good going there, MAGA. Iran's top Shiite cleric has issued a fatwa, or what that means is a religious decree against President Donald Trump and Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, calling them enemies of God. The decree from Grand Ayatollah Nasser Makarim Shirazi called on Muslims across the world to unite and bring down the American and Israel leaders for threatening the Islamic Republic leadership. Quote, "Any person or regime that threatens the leader or marja, may God forbid, is considered a warlord or a moharib." Makarim said in the ruling, according to Mayor News Agency, a moharib is someone who wages war against God. And under Iranian law, those identified as moharib can face execution, crucifixion, limb amputation, or exile. Remember when Donald Trump stood before the American people on national TV and called his airstrikes a, quote, spectacular military success, unquote, that, quote, completely and totally obliterated, unquote, Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities? Yeah. Well, no. The head of the UN's nuclear watchdog poured a bucket of ice water on that steaming pile of shit and said that Tehran could actually restart enriching uranium, quote, in a matter of months, unquote. which they almost certainly will do with unchecked urgency now that we've all but abandoned diplomacy in favor of kablooey. Okay? Yeah, so that's what I said last week. Now that Trump's done this, okay, gotten in bed there with Netanyahu and facilitated in a strike on Iran, Iran has no reason to follow any more rules about not enriching uranium and stuff and making nuclear weapons. They're going to do it now, and you ain't going to stop them, okay? And like I said, they don't really have to do it. In the meantime, they can get one of their allies, China or Russia, to park some nukes in their fucking country, and they can launch them, or they just launch them right from their silos, wherever the hell they are, okay? So they don't, you know... One of the reasons why they never could find, or that Iran was violating UN restrictions on making, you know, weapons-grade uranium, okay, was the fact that Iran really wasn't in need of it at the time, okay? And if it ever come to that, they were sure that they had allies that would help defend them, you know, stand with them, okay? So they would do their attacks in a more conventional sense, okay, you know, with regular missiles and whatever, bullets and shit, okay? They would do that shit on on a conventional scale. But if any of the big boys got involved in the fight, well, they got big boys on their side that would fight back. And so now Iran is, you know, what they're going to do is they're going to start picking at our bases. They're going to start picking at American people. Any Americans abroad, outside of the United States, they're going to be a target now. So if you're thinking about traveling overseas somewhere, okay, be on the alert. They're going to have, you know, terrorists looking for anybody that's American. All right? And if you think Trump is going to sacrifice anything to get you out of their hands, forget it. So, like I said, you know, we're going to be on very, very thin ice in the days to come. We should expect to be hit by terrorists at some point in the near future. Okay, they may wait a while because they got to plan this out, right? You know, but it doesn't matter if they survive it or not, because hey, it's, you know, it's like a kamikaze pilot. They're dying for a cause. So they don't have to worry about, you know, getting caught or getting killed in the process. Their objective is to strike inside the U.S. or a military base, you know, the United States military base, or hell, even a UN. I mean, anybody that's allied with us. I mean, they're all going to be targets. Basically, this war is not going to stop. We're going to see an escalation of terrorism in this country and in other parts of the world in the days to come. It's going to be a big fucking problem. It's going to drag everybody into this fight. Okay? And Iran is not going to quit. Because, like, MAGA won't quit when it comes to Trump. They don't quit because they believe in their cause. All right? It's going to be a kill or be killed kind of attitude. An eye for an eye, right? We've heard that a lot. But that's what it's going to be. And Trump, well, he's going to tell you all kinds of stories. You know, we're doing good, we're doing, you know, okay. Listen, when you see his face on the news and he's talking, just shut the fucking TV off, because you're not going to get anything useful out of him, okay? He's going to talk all around the fucking issue, and he's going to make you feel good and think, oh, nothing's going to happen to us, and then you're going to see a goddamn B-52 laying on the you know what I'm saying? This is the way we're going to have to live in this country now. We cannot listen to the big brother bullshit that's going to come across the TV. That's all lies. He's done nothing but lie since he got back into the office, okay? Every fucking thing he's ever said since he became president for a second time has been a goddamn lie. Everything, every single thing. And they've been easy to figure out too, because to fact check what he says is so easy. Really, it's really very easy. You don't have to be a genius to know when he's lying. So don't fall into his bullshit and look like an idiot by believing what he tells you. Be smarter than him. Okay? Christ, some of you people that didn't even graduate high school are smarter than him already. So look, just don't fall into his shit. When he talks, don't listen. Okay? Don't listen. He's got nothing to tell you that's going to make things better or solve your wounds. Okay? He's got nothing. You're crazy. You know what, Smoke? Anyway, that's it for today. So I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. Subscribe, comment, share. Keep your ears open for any health-related issues out there. And be kind to your neighbors and be a community that works together, okay, for each other. Because that's all we're really going to have left here when it's all said and done, you know. Talk to you later. Take care.